Hi everybody, welcome very much to the channel. As a tech philosopher here, today we are going to talk about North Node in Capricorn. Before we start, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and use the links on below to contact me for readings and consultations. What is a North Node and what is Capricorn? Let's get to know it. The North Node represents places, things, spaces of uncomfortability, unfamiliarity, things or spaces where you can feel some unforgiveness, like it's too harsh or nobody cares about what you're doing or the way you're doing it, or just the simple fact that you don't or you feel like you don't know how to do something in a specific space, right? And the North Node also represents where you are growing into or where you should be growing into as a spirit. And what is Capricorn? Cardinal Earth. Cardinal, the ability to create something new, to refresh something, to innovate and force. Earth, limits, boundaries, right? Structure, security, safety, being responsible, being on time, being supportive, knowing how to be supported. So Earth has a lot of things going for it, but because also Capricorn is ruled by Saturn and Mars is exalted in Capricorn, we have the ability to create new Saturn, new limits and boundaries, new infrastructure, networking and associations, and you might go too far if you have Capricorn Sun or Moon, right? With your passions and motivations, whenever see a new opportunity to create a new business routine or limits and boundaries around or about them, right? But because if you are watching this video, most likely you have North Node in Capricorn, it means that you feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or don't know how to apply new limits and boundaries. You might have good ideas for limits and boundaries, but you might not be able to apply them in a creative, unique, and sometimes rashful, strong, or strange way, right? Also, it means you might feel nervous around corporate business. You might feel insecure thinking you don't have it, or people look in something for you that you think you don't have, to be around those spaces, to succeed in those spaces, or just to be seen as normal in those spaces, right? Also, with North Node in Capricorn, it also means you might be unfamiliar with how others, right, think it's normal to be around the corporate space or limits and boundaries or routines and patterns, right? Also, imagine you have some Earth and good air alignments in your chart and you're already into business, you're already into a routine and pattern, you're already into the corporate world, for an example. Even though you're already into that and you already feel more comfortable with North Node in Capricorn, you always feel a bit uncomfortable when you or others create new routines, new patterns, new limits, new boundaries, and new grand objectives about that routine that you were already in, right? Also, with North Node in Capricorn, it means that by default we have South Node in Cancer, which is always an opposition, the North Node and the South Node. And if you have South Node in Cancer, it means you are more comfortable and familiar at creating new emotions and feelings, new emotional limits and boundaries, and new spiritual, creative, and emotional purpose and goals, right? So it means that you might feel uncomfortable or don't know how to take those feelings and emotions, those spiritual and creative purposes, and apply them in reality in a way that it makes sense, in a way that it's profitable, and in the way that you can use it as your status to define around others your limits and your boundaries. Because you might have very strong emotional limits and boundaries, you might be very knowledgeable about yours and others' emotional and spiritual limits and boundaries, goals and purposes, but if you can't communicate about them, if you can't make a schedule, a routine, a goal, if you can't make it profitable, or if you can't help others make sense out of their creative purposes or new feelings and new emotions, right? It still means that you will experience uncomfortability or just unfamiliarity, right? Because you don't know to apply that in reality. So you are learning how to, right? North Node is by above everything else is the ability to learn and grow as a spirit, right? So that means that you have to go into those uncomfortable scenarios. You have to go into those unfamiliar situations. You have to think and feel about things that might make you nervous, right? And especially or specifically with North Node in Capricorn, it means that you are here to learn how to bring your emotional limits and boundaries, your spiritual and creative purposes and goals, and then create a routine and pattern, create a status, a business, a team, network, infrastructure, and associations about them. And that's tough for everybody else, by the way, right? Because the moon is the closest planet to us, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, so everybody else is more comfortable in applying their own limits and boundaries internally, in having their own dreams and illusions internally. And everybody's a bit more uncomfortable in making their dreams come true in physical terms, in profitable, organized terms. That's why not a lot of people are able to be really successful and really independent with their own dreams, with their own illusions, with their own purposes, right? But you are here with one of the toughest challenge. Everybody has tough challenges, right? But in accordance to what is by default easier and difficult, according to our own majority of natures in this realm, you get the most difficult, or perhaps the most difficult to understand, perhaps not to execute, North Node, right? Because you have to take all of what's, not all, but mostly of what's private, comfortable, safe, and secure to you internally, spiritually and emotionally, and then you have to make it real. You have to show it to others in order to compromise and make internal structures and teamworks, internal as in behind the public's vision, and then you bring that to the public's vision together as a group, okay, from Capricorn to Aquarius, from internal Saturn to external Saturn, right? But let me tell you something right now. Even though it might be the hardest or one of the hardest and roughest, it also is the most rewarding, right? Because everybody's looking for money and everybody's looking for security. So if you can achieve that on your own way, with your own emotions and feelings, with your own purposes, with your own spiritual limits and boundaries, you'll be the happiest person in the world and the most stable, the most creative, the most responsible and profitable, right? And also, just for you to know, it might look like you ain't going nowhere. It might look like a bit chaotic and confusing because not a lot of people learn that lesson, right? Not a lot of people are into those spaces. So you might lack examples, even from yourself, family, and other people in the world, to tell you that you're going right. That's why you have to be more in that North Node in Capricorn space to create you yourself create physical examples, and then you already have South Node in Cancer, aka Cardinal Water, so you already have new emotions and feelings and new emotional and internal examples to bring together with your new routines and patterns to tell if you're going in the right direction, to tell you if the routines and patterns, if the business is meeting your purpose and your emotional limits and boundaries, right? Also, with North Node in Capricorn, you also might feel uncomfortable in getting to the business, right? In cutting some emotions away from the table, either from yourself or others. Because depending on your other alignments, you might be already not so emotional in communicating. You might already not tolerate so much water around the business table. But if somebody else comes in very watery and very emotionally, perhaps even irritated, you with North Node in Capricorn might feel uncomfortable or just don't know how to cut that, make it dry, make it clean, apply realistic, that makes sense, earth-like limits and boundaries to yourself and others. And that you have to grow into that, and then to know the balance, right? You can't become a cold motherfucker, right? You have to become like a smooth criminal, where you know the goal is to be more realistic, to be more practical, but you also, because you have South Node in Cancer, you respect others' emotional limits and boundaries and spiritual purposes, right? So you know everybody has emotions, everybody sometimes gets exalted, people that are into astrology and spirituality less than others, right? But then you have to find the balance where you make the goal clear and make sense, but you don't make the person feel bad or dried out. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for watching. As always, it's a very general video, so if you want to know about your own North Node in Capricorn or about other alignments, book a personal consultation, tarot and natal chart reading with me using the links down below and the email as well. Until the next time, I wish you the best thoughts, ideas, feelings and emotions, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity and responsibility as well. See you soon.